Morning, everyone. We'll just wait a second while a few more join. While we're waiting for everyone to join, I'll just go through some quick housekeeping before I introduce our speaker today. Really appreciate you joining us for this webinar. We are recording the session, which we'll share with you afterwards. Emma-Ray's also kindly agreed to share the slides, which we'll also share with you afterwards. I'll send you all an email asking for some feedback, and we'll include those slides in the recording following the event. Okay, well, you're joining us today for the secret to creating social media videos that captivate and convert. I won't go through our speaker's bio. Emma-Ray Schrager. He's spoken at a lot of our events over the years, done a number of seminars and webinars for us. He's a great supporter of CHP Australia. He's been he's a member, and he's also a judge for the Self-Care Excellence Awards for the last few years as well. So I won't hesitate anymore. Welcome, Emma-Ray Schrager, co-founder of Red Agency.
Thanks, David. Thanks, mate. Great. So just to put it, so my name is Amore, and it's not Amore, as my friend David would always call me. Like, I'm not Italian, I'm French, but you can all call me Amo. I think it's much easier. So AMO, that's what people tend to call me. Even my closest friends here, even though I've been 13 years here, like no one can say my name properly. But yeah, first of all, thanks for giving me some time today, like kind of, to go through the presentations. A bit about me. So I've been working in the social space for the past 12 years, which I love to say it's, 84 in social media years. As obviously, with new platforms, new algorithm popping up every day, you kind of need to constantly have your fingers on the pulse and know what's going on. In terms of my background, so I used to have a TV production business back in Paris. Like I'm talking now of 18 years ago, and I did this for 3 years, and moved to Australia and kind of specialize myself in the social space. And over the years, I've had a chance to kind of work with a lot of B2B and B2C clients, like on their strategies and ongoing content creations, video production, obviously. And so this is a snapshot of some of them. I guess the last two rows, the bottom two rows are probably the ones that matters the most to you. But we work with pretty much every single, probably not every single, but a lot of pharma and healthcare brands. And so after working with multiple agencies, the likes of We Are Social, the likes of Havas, I recently launched an agency with my business partner, Mary, and it's called Bread. It's English for baguette. So that's pretty much it. But what I'm going to go through today is, I guess, some of the secret sauce that we are going through when working on those, videos. But yeah, that slide was very much to say, I'm legit. I think I've got a good experience that could hopefully help you, craft your own videos. In terms of video marketing in numbers, so I could have put so many slides, and when preparing that deck, I was going through so many articles, all with kind of very amazing stats, but those are kind of, I guess, the top 4 for me. That I found were interesting. So in 2023, people are watching on average 17 hours of online videos per week. On average, social media posts with video have 48% more organic views than other posts. And that's kind of been the case, like social platforms, I'm sure you would all know this, but are becoming really much like video first platforms. So automatically, static still work, I guess, but like what you want to focus your efforts on is really about that video content. And even if you don't necessarily have the budget for videos, sometimes it's worth turning a static into a GIF or GIF, 2 different schools here. But really important to have a bit of movement, because automatically the algorithm and will basically kind of pump up the reach of that specific post. Viewers recall 95% of a message when delivered in video format. compared to 10% when reading it in text. And I think we all know this. I think it's quite, watching videos is always kind of, the easiest way of remembering a message. That's why TVCs and TV commercials, that's my background. I still love a good TVC, is kind of, still important. Marketers who implement videos into their strategy grow revenue 49% faster than those who don't. So again, I could have highlighted way more kind of, stats here, but, you can do your own digging, I guess. But there's like stats for every single element and every single steps of the funnel. But what I love is if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video is worth 1,000,000. Again, I think it's very important to, start thinking about like what I just mentioned before, like social platforms are pretty much video first, especially with platforms like TikTok, or Instagram started as photos, as we all know, but it's very much becoming all about reels. And I think it's very important to start thinking about like, what's your content strategy looking like, and how can you make sure that, everything that you do is more geared towards videos. Like if you had to dedicate a portion of your production kind of, a budget, just make sure that you focus on videos before any static images. And I know it's going to be more time. I know it's more effort. I know it's more budget. And again, back in 2016, when Facebook decided to say, hey, we're now becoming a video platforms instead of a social media network, trust me, like we had like so many of our clients from where I used to work, where we changed the entire content strategy to focus only on videos, or a good portion of it. But where to start? And I think that's kind of what you are all here today for. Obviously, the way you need to start about videos is very much aligned with how you would start a social media strategy. So it's by kind of having a good understanding of your audience. And a good understanding of your audience comes with, the audience preferences, the interest, and the behaviors. And for this, there's 4 key areas of research that we always go through. So even if it's a small brief or a small campaign where it's like, hey, we want to create some TikTok videos, or we want to create some, any kind of, any videos really, what we always do, and yes, of course, we might streamline some parts of this, but it's really about understanding the, those few elements first. So in terms of general, we'll be looking at this and breaking this down anyway, but there's 4 key areas of research. So the general, the earn, the own, and the search. So those are the key questions that you need to ask yourself, or at least find the answers when looking at kind of, from a general point of view. So who is your audience? Do you have any insights about them? What is the customer journey for your category? Like where can those videos, where would those videos play a role? And then what are the latest trends in your category? And those are kind of some of the tools that we use. Obviously, the good old Google, SlideShare, Census used to do an amazing, and I think they do still drop feed that some interesting stats about social. And then obviously underneath that kind of line, you've got all the fairly expensive licenses for those ones like Roy Morgan, Global Web Index, and Nielsen. But hopefully, if you do work with media agencies, some of those media agencies will have access at least to Roy Morgan. GWI and Nielsen is always a bit different, but Roy Morgan is very much the tool for Australian kind of media agencies. Then from an earn point of view, so it's very much about like, who is talking about your brand and your category. What are they talking about? So having a good understanding of like, what are the key drivers of conversations that will help you then kind of, start thinking about how you can create videos that, either respond to some of those comments or questions. So those are kind of some of the questions. And where are those conversations happening? Like we are all assuming that all our audiences are on Facebook and Instagram. Great. But like, are they also on TikTok? Are they also in a blog? Are they also on Reddit? Are there other places and forums where we could also start looking into to then be able to kind of craft the right messages and the right videos for it? The general sentiment as well is always an important one. So what's driving the positive and negative sentiment around the brand or around the product? Again, a great way of understanding, where videos can play a role. And then who are the key influencers and advocates? I will cover in a few moments the importance of using kind of, celebrities or influencers. It's always great when you find that credible voice that can help you within the content as well. And again, a bunch of other amazing tools that we tend to use a lot. Answer the Publics that I will cover in a few minutes. BuzzSumo, product review, again, really important to look at rate and reviews, and product review, Trustpilot, our product reviews online. Upfluence, which is very much about like kind of that influencer identifications as well tool. And you've got an amazing kind of plugin on Google Chrome if you've got Google Chrome, so have a look. And then Brandwatch, which is probably the Rolls-Royce of Aeon conversation tools, on social. And then from an own point of view, I think it's very important to also look at your own, obviously, profile, but as well as the profile of your own kind of, competitors. And there are tools to do this as well. You need to understand what are the drivers of engagements, best and worst performing content. What are the videos that are getting the highest number of views? Sometimes it's as simple as going on YouTube, typing a search query on YouTube, and then ranking the results by video views, because you can do this. So you can ultimately see, like, within the category or within the space that you are in, or within whatever you are searching for, you can automatically see on YouTube what's ranking high. What's got the most number of views. And that's a great kind of, obviously, a way of thinking about your content as well. If you know that's been performing well, it might be performing well for you if you tend to kind of do something similar. I'm obviously not saying do copycats, but I think it's great to be inspired by what's going on. And then what type of videos content does your audience seem to resonate with? Again, it's all about doing that due diligence and understanding kind of who is reacting to what. TikTok is another beast in itself. It's not serving videos based on kind of the people that you follow, but based on your interest. So which is kind of a new way the algorithm is working, and that's what Instagram is trying to mimic as well. So you might end up seeing kind of contents that are not people that you follow, but are very in line with what you tend to react or tend to engage with usually. And again, a bunch of tools. I'm not going to bore you with some of those tools yet, but have a look at these. Just do all your own digging, because it's too crucial before you even say, okay, what are we going to do with that specific kind of challenge? It's like, let's do that digging first, let's do that research first, and then you will be in much better positions to kind of just create content that is kind of worthwhile. And then from a search point of view, obviously very important. Even though you are creating videos, you know how videos are very important for websites as well, is like really looking at like kind of, who is visiting your website and your competitor site. So for your website, you've got Google Analytics, but for your competitors, I'm going to show you in the next slide, there's an amazing tool called SimilarWeb, where you can literally assess what's working well for your key competitors, what are the pages that are getting the most visits, what is the content that seems to resonate the most, and therefore you can then kind of, it gives you a good understanding of the type of content that you can create yourself, including video content. And then which pages are they visiting and how long are they staying for? Where is the traffic coming from? Is that actually from YouTube? Is that from social? Is that from other places? So again, important there. And then what is the volume of search that your product or service receives, and what are the keywords that are used? Because again, when you are going to push that video on social or on YouTube or on your website, that making sure the keywords in the description of videos are obviously the right keywords is very crucial, so that when people are searching for the topic of interest, then they will, the likelihood for them to find your content will be greater. So I mentioned SimilarWeb. I'm a big fan of SimilarWeb. So for this example, I put Ego Pharma. So I think there's two people, Jake and Kim, on the call today. Obviously, I don't work with Ego Pharma. We don't work with Ego Pharma. But what I wanted to show you is the type of information that you can get on any brands, really. And it could be Ego Pharma. It could be any other of your key competitors. I don't have access to your Google Analytics, but I can basically, thanks to SimilarWeb, I'm in a position to see the estimated number of visits that you receive per month, the visit durations, like the number of page per visit, the bounce rate. So, is the content good enough that people tend to kind of stay on the websites when they land? What is the content that is receiving the most visits, the main traffic sources, and even sometimes, I mean, even the audience interest. So I personally feel it's an incredible resource to use and bookmark. And again, really important to look at your competitors' websites that way, or even benchmark if you know that there's a great website that tends to deliver value to their customers and to their audience. You know, in the US, in US, like there's a few amazing brands that are doing very well in terms of delivering edutaining content. It's like, you know, what can you learn from them that you could apply here in Australia? So that's the first example of I mean, SimilarWeb, first tool. And then the second tool I wanted to show you as well, which is probably I would say my favorite tool. It's called Answer the Public. And Answer the Public basically curates all the key questions that are searched online on Google and Bing about a specific brand or about a specific category. And here, for that example, I put Church and Dwight, who's actually an old client of mine. So that's for Tori and Diana. I think you are both on the call. But what you can see here, and I didn't put Courage or Baptiste, I just put like Church and Dwight. But you can see here what are the key questions that are asked online. I mean, that are searched online on Google and Bing. And you know, like some of those questions might be too small for you, but you know, some of them are like, where are Church and Dwight products made? What does Church and Dwight do? What products does Church and Dwight make? So it gives you a very good you know, indications of the motivations and emotions that people are going through behind each query. As I love to say to kind of your clients, it's like it's almost your content strategy on the silver platter. If you do answer every single of those different queries via a blog, via a video, via on your socials as well, the likelihood for people to land on your website will be greater. So yeah, again, amazing tool called Answer the Public, and it's free. By the way, those two tools are free. You are just capped by the number of queries that you can do per day, per IP address, or you can just pay a very minimal license fee to get access to some of those stats. I mean, some of those learnings. So that's kind of the first phase of how we work, or how I suggest you working when you start looking at videos. Do all that digging and do all that things, and then you will have a much better idea of the value exchange of like, you know, this is what you've learned, you know, now the audience, you know, what seems to resonate well, and then obviously it's all about crafting that message. Apologies. So then it's like, as I said, define your message. So for this, like, again, it's very much about really kind of defining the message that you want those videos to be about, and how you can best craft it to resonate with your audience. And there's like kind of a few things, and again, there's heaps of stats and heaps of things, but I just find that one quite interesting. Why do people watch videos online? And they watch videos to help them relax and unwind, to laugh or be entertained, to explore an interest or passions, to learn something new, or to escape from their daily lives. So again, like knowing this, it automatically kind of goes to tell that, you know, like you can craft a message that, I mean, your messages needs to kind of, you know, I guess, answer one of those kind of elements. But yeah, that's I will break it down a bit further afterwards. But ultimately, we all love to kiss. No, I'm joking. But ultimately, you want to be single-minded. You know, I love that principle of keeping it simple, stupid. Ultimately, you want, again, being very single-minded, one single key point, solving one problem at a time, addressing one need, and try not to do too much within your videos. Too often, we're trying to cram every single messages, brand messages, you know, claims from the products or whatever into one video. Why not breaking this down in multiple videos, in a series of videos? Yes, sometimes it might cost you a bit more, but it will be way more cost effective. It will be more effective in terms of the delivery of the message, instead of trying to kind of literally kind of tick box exercise of cramming every single of your messages. So really think about like how to keep those videos and every single piece of content really quite simple, because again, attention span is declining. You know, I think it's like 9 seconds or 8 seconds, which is worse than a goldfish. So again, we really want to kind of, you know, keep the attention, keep the audience engaged, and deliver just one message per video. But those are the other recipes that I suggest looking at. So edutaining content is key. And by edutaining, obviously, it's all about educational content delivered in an entertaining way. Let's be honest, people are not on social to watch your branded videos. I know it's sad, but it is right. It is right. Like young people are on social to follow their friends, to engage with their friends, to see their kind of latest holiday pictures and videos, not necessarily really to kind of look at ads from your various kind of brands. So again, it's good to know this because that's kind of like where you kind of sitting in. But obviously, the number one reason people will follow your brands or follow brands on social is very much about learning about new products, stay up to date with the company news, followed by the desire, obviously, to learn how to followed by the desire to learn about discounts and promotions. So again, people are here for the freebies, and we all know this. Like that's one of the main reasons people would follow brands on social. So, and one of the study by Twitter, says that only 6% of Twitter suggest brands should use their normal tone of voice. Instead, they suggest using tones of voice like being informative, being supportive, being positive, being sincere and encouraging. And all this goes to support again that the idea of edutainment content is the best thing that brands should be doing on a kind of when they push their message out. Where to start? Again, all the research phase that are presented to you, that are presented before, is exactly what you want to do. Is like by doing this, then you know what the audience is waiting for, and then you can just deliver the content that they're after. I've got one example here that is from a few years ago that I've done with that was with AbbVie. So it's a campaign about HS, which is a terrible skin conditions. We realized that there was a lot of people talking online about that complicated skin conditions, but we wanted to talk about kind of, I guess, these solutions that the solutions that AbbVie could provide. And so here's what we did, in a very simple manner. So hopefully the sound will work. We did a test with David, and he did. So So again, very simple, yet, as you would have seen, all those emojis were using the language that was used on forums and Facebook groups and all this about HS. And the whole point was like, let's be in tune with what our audience and, like people suffering from that conditions talk about, like fire under the armpits, like kind of volcano under the armpits and all those things. So again, really important to kind of use the language that, like people are already using online, and then, try to kind of mimic what's going on to get obviously great traction. And that video went very well, especially for people suffering from HS, while still obviously educating other people about what HS was all about. So that's the first thing. Edutaining content is key, and I really kind of think that like the majority of content that we create seems to be always around that edutainment I guess field. Leverage the power of emotion. So obviously it makes your audience notice, remember, share, and buy. So obviously you want to same thing. For Kiss, keep it simple and stupid. It's the same thing about video, about emotions. You ultimately want to tap into one singular emotions per video. It could be happiness, it could be sadness, anger, or fear to get that consumer response. But we ultimately, we all know that wheels of emotions, I think it's a guy called Robert Plutchnik. I can't even say the name properly, but illustrating some of these emotion spectrums with different colors, different kind of, trigger points. You ultimately using emotions work. There was a study that highlights that a recent study highlights that, you know, out of like 1,400 successful advertising campaigns, all those ones who are using emotional content, that were using emotional content perform twice better than the ones without with only a rational content element. So again, really important to think about emotions. And in terms of emotions, those are I guess the 4 key emotions that you should aim for. Obviously, all feeling a different purpose. So happiness, we all know that, you know, a happy video makes kind of, you know, makes us share and sharing loads to increase brand awareness. We all know that bad news sells, but then when good news travel fast, even faster. So again, really important to start thinking about like how you can bring that positivity in your content, because people will then obviously share those videos. Sadness. Obviously, sadness is one where it's like makes us empathize and connect, and empathy leads to increased in giving. That's why, you know, like RCPCA or any charity tends to kind of use that sadness, you know, like those sadness videos, because it works. You know, like people feel that I guess sadness, and then that inspire them to act, and then obviously donate. Surprise and fear. So this is an interesting one. Marketers are typically afraid to leverage fear in their advertisements, and for fear, literally, that consumers will associate negative feelings to the content that they post. But the opposite is very true as well. So studies shows that evoking kind of fear allows your brand to be seen as the good thing in the dark world. So meaning your consumers will lean in on you more when things take a turn for the worse. So really important to kind of, again, look at those 3 emotions. And then the final one is anger and passions. We've all seen videos about, you know, like those Facebook videos about local tragedy or political issues. It makes us angry. So obviously, like, you know, it's like similar to happiness. It's like, you know, it's like those strong emotions, those strong pull that makes us share those videos even further. Again, I'm not suggesting that you should use necessary anger all the time, but again, you know, sometimes if it's worth it, you know, consider it. Doesn't need to be all happiness or every time. So that's kind of the power of emotions. In terms of like, you know, what you can leverage based on like kind of what you're trying to communicate. Short is best and story arc is everything. So we all know that traditional story arc, which is very much like, you know, like simple, basic plot pattern where, you know, like the prime is, as discussed before, the prime is, you know, like the way it's kind of following, it's like very much that crescendo thing, which is that old school way of looking at even a movie or whatever. So where you kind of set up the scene, you know, like you start kind of, you know, the building, then you've got that climax, and then you've got kind of the reveal at the end. What you want to do is like, you want to flip this on its head. It's almost like what movie trailers do, is like, you know, like they've got like 1 minute or 2 minutes to communicate how good the movie is. And so they literally kind of punch it hard with like kind of some strong emotions straight from the get-go, with some interesting kind of content that will make you say, oh, wow, I want to watch the video further. So it's all about, you know, attracting first with that high or the hook, you know, right at the beginning. Then obviously you all throughout the video, you use you start pushing the branding a bit more, to help with, you know, like obviously set up that climax, and then you connect throughout. So, you know, you probably go through a range of emotion or go through a range of things to make it interesting, so that people want to watch like seconds by seconds, 1 second more than what they've watched. And then obviously finishing it with a clear call to action, which is, you know, go on the website, buy this, buy that, or subscribe to the newsletter or whatever. So again, really important to start thinking about this, and the way you craft your video messages as well is like, because ultimately people have got short attention span, as I mentioned before. You need to kind of get the message across very quickly. You know, the 5 seconds mark is great. You know, like if you succeed to get, you know, good messaging and your branding in the first 5 seconds, I think that's already very good. and then obviously try to keep the audience engaged so that they don't drop out. Hopefully it all makes sense. But yeah, think mobile first. So this is obviously one that when you know that 80% of like social media time is spent on mobile devices, it's very important for you to concentrate all your efforts in making those videos mobile first. Yes, of course, people are still using their desktop or their tablets, but again, the reality is most people will consume your content on their phones. And so therefore you need to craft the videos to make sure that they are in tune with what the best experience that you can deliver for your audience. And in terms of this, there's obviously kind of I guess a bit of a content checklist. Obviously the capture. So does the creative capture attention quickly? As I mentioned before, that's really much about that story arc and how you can flip it on its head and making sure you start high, you get that engagement straight from the get-go so that people want to see kind of to see the rest of the videos as well. Then the framing is a very important one. Obviously, and again, I used to work in TV production business, and it was all about 16:9 kind of ratio. What you've got typically on YouTube. Now, obviously, it's all 9:16 or 4:5, which is very much about that vertical format. You need to make sure it takes the majority of because it takes the majority of the real estate with vertical videos. So, you've got less chances of people like kind of scrolling through because they will obviously straight away kind of see the videos in full screen. In terms of the framing as well of the talent. So if you have filming people, like the crops is important. If you're on 16:9, you are much wider. But obviously, if you're on vertical videos, you want to kind of get it a bit shorter and then kind of crop a bit more the faces. So you engage with your audience, like I'm trying to do right now. Like kind of straight to camera and kind of try to engage the audience a bit further. Again, it also brings that emotions and that kind of intimacy with the audience, so people are watching your videos. So always a great way of like kind of try to get longer watch time. You can also use, and I'm sure you've all known this, but like you can use large graphics. Obviously subtitles is a must, because most people will probably watch this on their way commuting or without the sound. So important to have subtitles throughout, as well as like if you want to emphasize on like key messages, you can also push this with like kind of big graphics, large text. And then finally, in terms of one of the other tricks that we tend to use a lot as well, is like when you do video content on mobile, we all know that we are all trying to save our battery by dimming our phones to the minimum. And so therefore, you should assume that people will watch your videos with that dim light on their phones. So try to push the brightness or try to push the contrast a bit further, because ultimately you want them to have a great experience even with their dim phones. Hopefully it makes sense for the framing. And again, and obviously I mentioned this in terms of the design. So, it needs to be understood without the sound. That's obviously very clear. Sound is important, but almost secondary to what the image will look like, and then the subtitles. And yes, of course, the idea as well is like to create content that utilize the platform's formats. So you need to be in tune with what's going on with, like the specs that tend to change all the time, unfortunately, for Facebook, for Instagram, for TikTok, for YouTube, and utilize the latest and greatest kind of, I guess, native tools that those platforms allow you to use. Because that's the other thing as well to be aware of, is like organic. You will get automatically better reach if you use the latest features that just got released on some of those platforms. Automatically, because they are trying to kind of push, let's say polls on Instagram stories back then used to be a thing where like brands that were using polls as part of their content will automatically get a bump up in reach, because like Instagram was pushing those polls a bit further. That was part of the agenda. So again, YouTube Shorts is all about YouTube Shorts now. I mean, now it's been a while now, but like whatever you post on Instagram Reels or TikTok can also potentially be on YouTube Shorts. So don't only think about that 16:9, also think about how you can leverage YouTube Shorts as well. So that's the second one, about third or fourth one, I'm getting confused now, about think mobile first. Then lo-fi content can cut through. So production doesn't need to be always expensive. I mean, funny enough, like social platforms tend to now push a bit more the authenticity, the authentic kind of content, the raw, unpolished, unfiltered. That's why, you know, like, I mean, now almost gone, but that's why like kind of platforms like Be Real had a massive kind of success. I don't know if you know too much about Be Real. That was like that. I say stupid because I always jump on like the latest and greatest social platforms, but sometimes I'm like, oh, this is not for me. But Be Real was that kind of social platforms that were prompting people to take photos of them at a certain time of the day, whatever they were doing. And there was a photo from them and a photo of what they were seeing. So, you know, it was like kind of a double, I mean, a selfie as well as like what they were seeing in front of their camera. And all this without any filters, nothing. I mean, a bit of context if you wanted, you could add a bit of text underneath, and that was it. And again, it went gangbuster, especially for the younger demographics, because they've had enough of looking at those overly polished overly polished kind of, you know, shoots or things that you put on the grid on Instagram that looks completely fake because it's been shot in studio with a, you know, like, and with all the filters and Photoshop. So again, that's the beauty of like where social is going, especially with Be Real and TikTok, is the fact that people are not after this anymore. They want probably less polished, what we could call UGC content, if you like, so that UGC feel is important. And here's another example. It is a bit old, but you know, as I was saying to David, we've got so many other examples, but not necessarily in line with like kind of the space that you're all evolving in, which is the pharma and healthcare. Even though we do some great work, I think, with the likes of Aspen. I think some of you are on the call. Love you all. But this is an example from before that we've done for allergen. So, and that was for hyperhidrosis, which is that conditions of excessive sweating. For that one, we used Jessica Rowe. Jessica Rowe was kind of obviously is suffering from that condition. So hyperhidrosis, which is when you sweat from your armpits and kind of palms and other places. And so what we did was like, we realized that Jessica Rowe was very big on taking selfies of herself and talking straight to the camera for a day-to-day Instagram post. And so what we tried to do, and as I said, part of the research, we basically identified what was working very well on the platforms. We asked her to mimic the same style. We did have a videographer because she had too much to do that she couldn't necessarily hold her phone as well. So we did have a videographer, but very low key. I was part of the shoot with the videographer, and we filmed all this in not long, as you will see, no cuts, nothing, just Jessica Rowe. And we did, I think, 3 videos, and this is just one example.
I'm getting ready to go out, but I'm worried about my sweaty armpits. Do you have excessive sweating, otherwise known as hyperhidrosis? If you want to learn more about your options and some helpful information, go to excessivesweatinghelp.com.au.
Again, very simple execution, nothing groundbreaking. Starting with that armpits view was obviously interesting to hook the people in, saying what the F is going on here. Excuse my French, but that was it pretty much like what we wanted to do, is like, you know, hook that people saying, what is she doing right now? Then obviously familiar faces always help. Jessica Rowe talking straight to the camera, cut kind of, you know, quite tight on her, talking straight. So engaging with the audience, all those different elements that I just mentioned before is basically what you're after. And yeah, so that was kind of an example. I've got another one which I can show, which is more in the because I think we've got plenty of time. I said to David, I was like, I think we'll have plenty of time, but you know, unless you've got heaps of questions, you know, I'm happy to go through another example, which has got nothing to do with pharma. It's we work with P&O Cruises, and then we did a very simple videos about a competition that they were running. It was yeah, and it worked so well. We had 3.1 million views on that specific videos, and it was done like kind of, you know, quite cheaply. We worked with our kind of, you know, usual designer. We did this. We had like 7,000 likes, 120 shares. But let me show you this. Yeah, so again, very different space, and I know it's not necessarily kind of, but again, like I do question, you know, like using codes of like kind of other brand or other categories for the pharma space tend to work, you know, like as David was mentioning, I'm part of the judging of the CHP awards, and you know, like some of the entries this year as well as the previous years have been incredible, and one of the key things that I've realized is like, you know, like again, trying to push the boundaries and trying to be a bit different, you know, like, yes, of course, you are in a highly regulated space, it's not always easy, but once you know the codes, once you know all the kind of regulations, once you've got your legal team on board, again, you can push the envelope, you can push those things, and then the audience will be way more receptive than trying to play too safe. I know it's a lot of education internally, and you know, I know it's a lot of like, you know, the legal medical reg, everyone needs to be onboarded, but like I think it's very important to kind of start thinking about like, hey, you are in a space where who's been highly regulated. You know, CHP is doing a fantastic work. And by the way, I'm not trying to sell CHP right now, but I'm a massive fan of what they've been doing. Obviously, you know, like the Medicines Code of Conduct as well. You know, back then I used to work with them on like what their social guidelines were going to be as well. Again, really important to push that creativity. And this is just a simple executions of that lo-fi content. Another example, another things that are obviously very important. I mean, I guess it all depends on budget, obviously, but is thinking about influencer marketing. There's not one campaign that we are doing without that influencer marketing component. You know, like that's really much like what people are after. That gives the third-party endorsements, that credibility, that board equity, if you like, that you want as a brand. And obviously celebrity endorsements, we all know that it works. Again, that's another example I wanted to show you. This is the second installations of a campaign that I was part of, called Look for Epilepsy, which was by UCB in partnership with Epilepsy Action Australia. And so what we did was like, Lucky was already from the Wiggles. I'm not sure if you are familiar with it. With him, but Lucky from the Wiggles has got a young niece who is affected by epilepsy, and so her name is Charlotte, and so that's why he's, you know, like the ambassador of Epilepsy Action Australia. And so what we did is like work with him in kind of, you know, yeah, just kind of talk about the message and talk about, you know, like I guess help raise awareness of that conditions that is affecting way too many Australians. Very simple shoot, except that we had to go to Brisbane because Lucky was in Brizzy. I mean, mainly Charlotte was in Brizzy. So we had to shoot in the studio in Brizzy. Very simple. We didn't want, as you can see here, you know, like we could have put him in a living room, but now we wanted just a simple kind of white background, no you know, no I guess no distractions beyond obviously kind of Lucky and his niece. So let's have a look now. Hands in the air, rock-a-bye your bear, bear's now asleep. I'm not here to fall asleep or to sing or to play music, but to talk to you about a condition that is very close to my heart and that affects more than 250,000 Australians. This condition is called epilepsy. Epilepsy is a condition where there is a temporary disruption of the electrical activity in the brain, resulting in recurrent seizures. Epilepsy can take many forms and affect people very differently. And importantly, epilepsy does not discriminate and can affect anyone. The reason why I'm so close to this cause is that my brother Cameron was born with epilepsy. His daughter Charlotte, my beautiful niece, who I'm holding here now and who is watching Wiggles, was born with Dravet syndrome, a rare but very serious form of epilepsy. It's impacted her ability to speak, but she is so strong and brave. She loves music. She's just learnt to walk, and you're doing so well, aren't you? I've been an Epilepsy Action Australia ambassador for some years because epilepsy is a condition that deserves so much more attention. Purple Day is the International Day for Epilepsy Awareness and falls on the 26th of March every year. This Purple Day, we want to reach as many people as possible to raise awareness and show support for people living with this condition. So I would like to ask every single one of you watching this video
to do 3 very simple things with me. Number 1, look for epilepsy and talk to your family and friends about it. Number 2, like and comment below. And number 3, share this video far and wide and show your support and help all Australians impacted by epilepsy. Thank you so much for your support.
Sorry for bringing a bit of emotions on a what are we, Wednesday or Thursday morning. Yeah, it was honestly, like, even rewatching it now, I'm like, oh my god, like the shoot was, I mean, was incredible. Obviously lucky he's a professional, but I have to say it was not the easiest one. We had like so many ideas for Shad to do, but didn't realize how affected she was by obviously the conditions. And yeah, quite emotional piece obviously. And yeah, that videos obviously got shared hundreds of thousands of times actually, and the audience, and mainly I guess people affected by epilepsy, really kind of, you know, obviously love that that type of messages. So, and then on another note, so we went obviously to quite sad content. I wanted to show you another example of like what we've done with Piano Cruises using influencers. So I don't know if I don't know if you're on TikTok or Instagram yourself, but I've always been a massive fan of like Ben and Zara, which is that cute kind of father and daughter duo. So when we launched the TikTok channel for Piano Cruises, we kind of got them on board to create some content, and this is one of them that received 1.9 million views, 130,000 likes, and 3,800 saves. So yeah, pretty crazy stats, to be honest. So let's look at this one. It feels much better. Feels good actually.
Feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't. So good, so good. I got you.
So very cute, very different than the previous video, obviously. But yeah, just wanted to show you that one. Then my last few slides. So in each platform has got their own codes, and I think we discussed this already briefly. This is kind of the typical things that you will see is like, you know, like Instagram versus TikTok versus YouTube versus Facebook. You need to be aligned. You need to know what's going on and what seems to work on those platforms. So when you create content, even if you shoot an entire day or you shoot something, is always having in the back of your mind, okay, this is great for TikTok, this is great for YouTube, this is not going to work for Facebook or whatsoever. So obviously Instagram, we all know it's all about that polished high quality imagery, and again, I do question that Instagram is still changing a fair bit now. It's becoming a bit more about like kind of reels, but there's still a place for the grid post to be a bit more polished. You know, like the simple caption hashtags obviously tend to be less important. TikTok posts, so it's very much about that behind the scenes, that kind of, you know, like that before and after type. Full screen video mode, music is on, and that's a key part of the content. Obviously for brands, they kind of recently cracked the whip on what you can and can't do, because obviously a lot of brands were leveraging like very popular song for advertising, but you can't do this anymore. But again, you know, you can already see the difference. I've got another example of a post here. So again, your Instagram post will look like kind of, you know, you are in the DJ booth with kind of, you know, whoever is the DJ. And on the other side, like a TikTok will show you that behind the scenes, or that, you know, someone arriving on set about to do his thing. So again, a bit different, but important to really understanding the codes and knowing the kind of what's working there and what doesn't as well, actually. Then my last slides basically is, those are the key questions to ask yourself, or to ask your agency, or to ask whoever part of your marketing team. So does this video add value? Ultimately, you don't want to create more content. You know, we are all inundated with too much advertising and too much content every single day. Really kind of think about like, you know, is it going to add value to whoever is going to watch this? Does it speak to your target audience? You know, did you do all your digging and all your research, your due diligence to know that this is a piece of content that would resonate with your audience? Does it fit with your brand values? Obviously, are you using the right emotions, language, and tone of voice to communicate that message? is or are the talents going to resonate with your audience? Again, important to kind of do some research, and if there's a need to use influencers or like existing people talking about a specific product or a specific category, it's quite important to kind of identify those. Am I using the right video formats to convey the message? Is that the right length as well? I think, can you convey the idea in less time? And what I say is like, there's no real cap per se, but at the same time, you want to kind of make sure that you are efficient in the delivery. So, again, KISS is the best way of looking at it. Keep it simple, stupid. Just like, it needs to be short and sweet. Is the video optimized for the platform and its codes? And then does it have a single call to action? Again, are we very clear on like what you're expecting the people to do once they've finished watching that video? Now, if you want to break bread, this is a QR code to my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect. Always happy to help or at least guide you wherever. But yeah, I think we might want to leave some time for questions. We've got 10 minutes of questions. I don't know, David, I can't see the chats. I don't know if there are any questions. But yeah, that's me. Thank you so much for yeah.
Well, Amore, thanks for that. We really love working with Amore. He's always got really sort of practical advice and great insights. So we really appreciate you joining us today, Amore. Do you want to stop sharing the screen? And we'll go to the first question. First question is from Rachel from Aspen. Hey, Hemo. With influencers marketing, how can we strike a balance between effective brand messaging and maintaining the influencer's authentic look and feel?
Hang on, I'm looking at the same time now. I can see the question. So it's all about influencers. I can't click on Q&A. Is that in the chat or in the?
It's in the Q&A, Amore. Do you want me to read it again?
It's here. Yeah, cool. Okay, great. Maintaining. Yeah. Hey, Rachel. Thanks for the question. I guess there's like, again, I think it's like, if we use influencers, the idea is very much to try to mimic what the influencers, popular content tends to work. And ultimately, when we work with influencers, is kind of obviously communicating all the key messages to them of what we're trying to get across, and then workshopping with them what's the best way of bringing this to life. They know their audience way more than we do. They know exactly what's going to resonate. So having their, I guess, creative inputs into the content is very crucial. We will never kind of say to an influencer, here's the script, here's the thing, just do your thing. No, I mean, do your thing, do what we say. It's more about workshopping with them to kind of get that fine balance between being authentic while still obviously, feels authentic while still obviously giving those brand messages. Because ultimately what we're after when you're working with influencers is their audience. And their audience is, important. And so, and they know them way more than we do. So yeah. Hopefully.
There seem to be any more questions. So thanks for that, Amore. As mentioned at the start of the meeting, we are recording it. So we'll send you guys a recording following the event. We'll also send you a PDF of the slides as well following the event. We do ask if you provide us a little bit of feedback. That's greatly appreciated. I hadn't heard of Be Real before, Amore, but I do actually plan to have a look at it later today and see what it's all about.
Honestly, it used to be a thing. I'm talking a year ago, literally a year ago, was much bigger. But I feel like it's been kind of one of the many social platforms that kind of came and burst. So I don't know. I think it's still running. I did it to the app a long time ago now, because it's just not for me. But
all right. Well, thanks for today, and thanks for everybody for joining us. And we'll see you at the next event, which happens to be the conference and awards. So hopefully we'll see you all there. Okay. Thanks, Amore.
Thank you so much. Bye.